Let's introduce ourselves, and then we're going to jump into our topic today about leisure skills, which I think is a great topic of where ABA also gets a bad rap. So let's demystify that, because I feel like we can do a better job teaching kids leisure skills.
So my name is Christina Torres, and I'm a BCBA here in Connecticut.
And I am Nicole Stewart. And welcome back to Reinforcing Conversations. We are both moms and BCBAs, and we are trying to bring this compassionate real-world lens. We just love ABA so much that we just want to shape better behavior one conversation at a time for our parents, our RBTs, our BCBAs, everybody who's in and adjacent to our field.
Yes, the general public.
Yes.
You know, we're just so passionate about this topic and the field as a whole. So it's so cool to have a platform to really disseminate, which is really explaining ABA from a behavioral perspective.
Yes.
So
yes, welcome. And this season is made possible through support from the New England Center for Children. The New England Center for Children, for over 50 years, the worldwide leader in autism education and research. Through our schools, clinics, consulting services, and the ACE ABA software system, we are shaping a more inclusive future for all. So let's get started. Let's talk about leisure skills and what they are and why they're important. And I think, my first piece is when I think about leisure skills, I don't just think about play skills. Leisure is,
me neither. Literally, when you said leisure, I was thinking about all the stuff that I do as leisure that people probably wouldn't see it as leisure, but for me, it's like totally leisure.
What do you do as leisure? Tell me, what are your leisure skills?
Like on the weekend, I'm gonna clean the fridge. I'm gonna like have these little boosts of momentum to like, hey, I have time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna mind my business and I'm gonna get things done, and it's something that I enjoy. Like even something as like it's not so much like actually it is a skill, like painting. It's something so simple that I find so satisfying. Like if somebody is like, oh, I need to paint, I'll be the first one to, can I help you? Because I love painting. It's so relaxing for me. I have such a great fine line to be able to like not have to use tape. I'm just so prideful, and it's just a skill that I've been able to like grow over time, especially with moving everywhere. And I just find it so like relaxing for me. It's like I will definitely be the first one to ask if I could paint your kitchen if you're repainting a kitchen.
Wait, we're gonna paint this wall. Why are you not coming here?
I will. Let me know, and I will go over there. We can record while we're painting.
Oh my gosh! Studio. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Yeah, we're gonna paint. I want to paint. I mean, it's a wall, so like, let's be honest, it's like a 6-foot wall, but it's got to get painted. I actually kind of enjoy painting. I find it to be a when you finish, like, so I painted my own bathroom all completely by myself. Maybe 2 summers ago, I just like randomly, very impulsively was like, I'm going to paint the bathroom. I want it to be purple. And I painted this all part of my divorce journey, and I painted it, and I find like the finished product. You seem to like the process. I'm more about, I was like, look at what I did. I felt like very driven by the product, not the process.
Well, through the process, you get to the end product, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But when you think of leisure skills, right? Because it's something that someone does on their own that they enjoy, which is a huge component, right? I find it enjoying. Some others might find it aversive, right? So each his own. So that kind of leads us to this kind of category of what we wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you like to do on your alone time that's leisure skill?
Oh my God. Is sleeping a leisure skill?
I know, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're deprived of it and you're motivated to get access to it.
Yeah. I read.
Yeah, reading.
I love traveling. I consider that like a leisure activity. It's like, I feel like I really enjoy traveling. I don't like things like gardening. I like kind of, I feel like reading, spending time with my kids. It's like a lot of sports stuff, watching sports, watching TV, spending time with my friends. Oh, I love shopping. Oh, see, now that I'm getting into it, I do find shopping to be a very enjoyable leisure experience. Even like going to the grocery store, I find enjoyable.
I can't stand going to the grocery store because I'm always so cold. So like for me, I'm always freezing. Like I try to get like the produce section and the freezer section. Like I start with the fruit area because it's like, okay, it's cold. Then you go into the middle and you're like kind of warming, and then you're kind of getting ready to go to the freezer section. So it's like, okay, it's like here, cold over there. So I'm not a fan of grocery shopping, but I have to.
Yeah. It's a necessary evil. I don't know. I love it. I don't like new grocery stores though. I get very overwhelmed when it's like not the same order.
Yeah.
But I do find it like sometimes like I'll let the kids stay home alone for like half an hour and I'll go to the grocery store and that's like my me time, which is like
Hmm.
such a stereotypical mom thing. But I feel like it gives me I don't know, I enjoy it. It gives me like 30 minutes to myself and just doing something that is like both productive and fun for me. Um yeah, go ahead.
No, yeah, it's good, especially as a mom, right? It's like we're constantly on a go. It's like, what's to do next? What's to clean? What we got to
I know,
feed the
right?
kids? We got to forget to wash our hair.
Yeah.
Self care. So, talking about kids, because we are both parents, what
Mhm.
are some of the skills that your kids enjoy?
Yeah, so it's a lot of sports. So I'm a sports mom and it's a lot of playing sports with friends, going outside and practicing sports, watching sports, playing sports video games. But also like it is interesting and I think, Jack's 11, he'll be 12. He's at now 11 and a half, so he'll be 12 soon. And so as you see kids grow up, you see this whole progression of like leisure is play and that they have like very simple like cause and effect play or like those like bead roller coasters and stuff and then it progresses to like imaginative play and then maybe they're playing with trains and then it progresses to like maybe they're building the trains or playing with Legos and then I feel like now it's like Jack's leisure skills are maturing where if he has time on his own he might like go to the library and like go for a walk. I feel like it's different or he goes for like a bike ride with his friends.
Oh, that's fun. I used to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah, I feel like it's different. If like there's the social, I guess there's like social leisure skills and then there's independent leisure skills.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
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 Especially social mediated piece of attention, right, from your peers and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so Snow is 3,
Yeah.
so it's fun to kind of watch her in her own element. So she's really, really into pretend play and pretending to be the mommy
Mhm.
and putting all ways to sleep. So you'll see like Elmo and you see all these all her blankets all over the house because there's just piles of all these toys sleeping. She really enjoys reading, so we always have like we do a lot of reading at nighttime for our routine, but
Mhm.
outside her room and she's like pretend reading, which is so sweet. Or she's also really into like the kitchen set, pretending to make.
Mm. Nolan used to love the kitchen set. I wonder if we still have our kitchen set. I gotta look. Yeah,
Yeah.
he used to love the kitchen set. And then we had the whole ice cream cart too.
Oh,
Yeah.
she has a Target shopping cart and her carrot, which we're getting her a new one because she ran that carrot to the ground. It's barely hanging on with
Aw.
the net. Yeah, it's so funny.
Yeah.
Like last night, she was like, she has these little characters from Wally, and she's like, "Oh, let's pretend." She was like, "You play daddy, and I'm gonna. Where's the mommy?" So we were, pretend playing for like 10 minutes, which I think was so cute to kind of see her. And I was thinking about VB Map, right? I was like,
Mm.
whenever I'm like engaged with my daughter, I always like see ABA and like see all these different milestones that she's accomplishing of like, oh, she's using prepositions, she's using adjectives, her imaginary play and including others and all that stuff. It was just so cool to see and like analyze it from that lens.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to think of ABA as a parent and individual once you understand the science of human behavior. It's so cool, right?
Yeah, it is. I feel like it's very valid for any of our BCBA moms listening. I feel like it's very validating because I know like my brain never turns off to the point where my kids are like, I'm not one of your clients.
Yeah.
But then also just for anybody who's listening, the VB, if you don't know what the VB, maybe you're an RBT or your parent or you're dabbling in ABA, the VB map is a ABA based assessment that looks at verbal behavior and all the milestones a kid should have to the age of 4, correct? The VB map's 4 and ABLES is 5. ABLES is 5, sorry, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it goes through like a lot of the skills that Christina said, and we use it for insurance funding and to see where our kids are and to like measure progress year over year for our clients. I used to do the same thing where I'd be like, oh, there's another one. They're manding without
Uh-huh.
the item present.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Like ask the WH question, like, where did it go?
Yeah.
Like filling in the piece, like, where is it?
Yeah. You've got
Yeah.
intraverbals. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Which also kind of leads into our learners that we support, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
leisure skills. that's a topic that a lot of people kind of like have a hard time with, especially with the concept of like functional play,
Mhm.
or, can the learner engage independently for up to 5 minutes on their own,
I I feel like leisure skills for me as a parent, my kids being able to I think there's a piece, right? I think there's this whole screen piece
Yeah.
that and I think a lot of parents that we work with feel this, and a lot of parents I know feel this, that kids don't know how to entertain themselves anymore without a screen.
Hmm.
But as a parent, sometimes I need to make dinner. Or I need to, like last night I was on the phone for an hour. Or I need, like sometimes I need to do other things and I need you to be able to entertain yourself. And the only way you know how to do that is on a screen. And
Hmm.
so then we default to the screens because they also allow us to do the things that we need to do. And I think that that's like, I feel like that's added this whole extraneous variable to teaching leisure skills and teaching kids how to be independent and how to do things independently because as parent we have to rely on screens and then they want to rely on screens and then it becomes like my whole I'm always like we're decentering screens, all of us. Like I want to decenter screens too so that they're not my go-to when I need you guys to be out of mischief. Out of mischief? Yeah. Um and I think it's like a problem for our clients. Like I just see it across the board. I don't know. What do you think about screens? This little pivot, but
No, I mean, a lot of our learners also need the screens
mhm.
to self-regulate, right? Especially with stimming. That's
Yeah.
also something a lot. It's like, oh, they're always stimming on the same sound, or even like families like, oh, it's repeating the same thing over and over and over and
Yeah.
over and over and over and over, and it's like nonstop. So I see the both ends of how screens could be beneficial and how screens could kind of like take over.
Mhm.
So, like with my daughter, I know a couple people like, oh, she had an iPad. Like, I just got her an iPad probably like 4 months ago.
Mhm.
And I knew like I just love to always be present with her, right? And honestly, I got the iPad because I really wanted to focus on like helping her start learning and identify, like basically like prerequisite skills to learning, like letter sounds and
Mhm.
writing and all that fun learning stuff. So I remember the first time I gave it to her, it was kind of scary to kind of see her react when first of all, I only gave it to her for like 10 minutes and we engaged with it together. Right. And it's like, okay, now it's time. I put the timer on. All right, timer's all done. We're going to be all done with the iPad. And she had a fit. And it was the first time ever of her even being exposed to it. Like I've never seen her on an iPad because she's never not in my environment.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, how is it the first time and she's actually seeing, like she's engaging in like this.
Yeah.
Right. And
Wow,
it
that's
was kind
crazy.
of, yeah, I know. And I was a little sad. I was like, I understand you're upset, Snowy, but we're gonna get to it tomorrow. So she's also really good with self-regulating after, a couple like she only cries for like maybe a minute and then
Ugh,
she kind of like picks herself up, which I'm
what's that like?
grateful for. It's amazing. It's like I've always been helping her regulate, especially in our field. It's like
Mhm.
emotional regulation, validating
Yeah.
feelings, redirection, right? Priming, using all those ABA, antecedent measures to help her transition. Because that's a
Yeah.
transition, guys. You got to
Yeah.
look at it from. So it's like, okay, I was expecting that, but I was like kind of also sad to see how like, damn, this is her first time and she had a reaction like that. And then the second time, it was not as bad as the first
Good.
time and the third time. So she's on like a variable schedule of when she actually gets it. And honestly, at this point in the beginning, she probably wanted like every other day, and now she probably will ask me like, oh, can I go on the iPad like once a week because I
That's
have a
good.
password. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of shape her being okay with the transition. Like, it's all done. What are we going to do next? And she doesn't have a problem coming off the iPad. But I don't give her the iPad more than 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Because she's really good with occupying herself,
Mhm.
whether it's play and I actually just put a TV in her room too. So she's really into like the YouTube, like she's really into like Coco Melon right now. And I did
Mhm.
not give her because all the transitions earlier. That's another thing. Attention span,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
right?
Yeah, cuz Cocomelon, it's interesting that you give her Cocomelon, it is fun. There's like new research about like short form videos for kids being like they're too it's like too much for their little brains, but I don't think it's true for every kid. I feel like you have
Yeah.
to
And
know
that's
your kid.
every kid, every learner is individual.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So it's all about really seeing how they consume it, right?
Yeah.
Be mindful of how much time they're on it, but also too don't forget to spend quality time with your children.
Mhm.
Literally, about 15 minutes, no iPads, no screens, engage, read a book, play what they're interested in. What are their leisure skills? Do they like letters? Do they like numbers? Do they like cars? Do they like Monopoly? Like, literally spend quality time with your learner outside of using just the screens.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, that you say that. A school, I don't know what it's called, a therapeutic center in Massachusetts called Sunrise Center, and their whole idea is, like, you go into the child's world so that they come into ours,
Mhm.
and it's kinda like that's kinda the same as, like, the idea of floor time as well, is, like, you move at the child's pace, and I feel like those things feel very antithetical to ABA, right? It's, like, the opposite of ABA almost. But I do think, like, it actually, if you do it well, is like, yeah, we should be spending time, like, you, "Oh, you like spinning plates? I'm gonna enjoy spinning plates with you." Or, "You like making these sounds? I'm gonna see what it feels like to make those sounds." Because then there's this, like, shared experience of, like, this is how you entertain yourself, and I'm trying to understand it. And I
Mhm.
care enough to try to understand it. And I feel like that is really valuable. Like, we do that with our neurotypical children, where it's like, "Oh, you're playing with cars? I'm gonna get on the floor and play with cars with you."
Mhm.
We should also do that with our autistic children as well, where we're okay, you're, walking around the house and touching every piece of furniture or something. I'm going to walk around the house and touch every piece of furniture and see what that feels like to
Yeah.
share your interest.
Yeah, you know what I also too I share with my family, like the parents and like the staff too, is like imitate their stims, especially if it's like a vocal stim or they got a
Mhm.
script that they script all the
Yeah,
time. Like I
yeah.
had our one learner, she would always script like this. She would hum this specific sound every time we would go to the bathroom because it was like a long thing. So we'd skip together and she had like this whole little tune.
Oh,
And so like we would do the
that's
tune
cute.
together. And I remember the first time that I did it, she looked at me and she was not a fan of eye contact, right? She literally looked at me like, "Oh my goodness, you know my song." And she started cracking up the whole time. It was the funniest thing ever. But like, that's also a great way to build rapport with your learners.
Yeah.
Because I also question a lot, how do I build rapport with my learner that's nonverbal? Or, they don't look at me. How do I, build a relationship with them? Engage with them. Find out what they find reinforcing and what they do all the time and incorporate yourself in their world.
Mhm. And not in, like, a forceful way. Don't be like, "Oh, okay, now we're both gonna stim together." But, like, if they're, their song, hum their song, and also don't do it, do it in a dignified way. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. If they're flapping their hands, you don't want to do it in a way that feels like you might be mocking them or it's inappropriate. But like feel it. Like, what does it feel like to flap my hands? Why might you enjoy this? Like, let's flap our hands together and see, like, maybe there's a connection by flapping our hands together. But if you're
And
doing it
also,
just
too,
to imitate them for fake, that's going to come across and it's not going to look good.
yeah. But going back to like the flapping, right?
Mhm.
Another strategy, like let's say you have a learner that does flap when they're excited and they have like an AAC device.
Yeah.
Model, oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm happy. That's funny. Like model the language of what they're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a great way to kind of show model FCT, right? But also you're modeling how they can respond using their AAC so that eventually one day be like, oh, that's funny. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's tickle more tickles.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're using those clues to identify what their emotions may be or what they may be feeling, to give them the language that matches their experience. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thinking about leisure skills and stimming and, like, these shared leisure experiences. You said something before we started recording. Well, I said, why is it important for us to teach leisure skills? Or, like, why is it so hard for people with autism to have leisure skills? And you corrected me and you said the leisure skills look different.
Think about it. Like everyone is like, you know, well, they don't do anything that, is functional or it's like, no, no, no. Functional to you or functional to them, right? Because just because they might like spinning the wheels of a toy or maybe they might be obsessed with Monopoly, that doesn't mean that it's that up to par of what is standard, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, it's not functional, but it's functional for them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think, like, me reading books, who else is that functional for? Right? Like, how is that any different? If I read a book,
Yeah,
that's not
it's
functional for you.
reinforcing. Yeah, the same thing with video games.
Yeah.
Like especially a lot of our learners. Like I actually started in the field supporting learn adults and also adolescents. And I worked at it's a transition home where, there was 2 participants and every floor was a 3 family. So we had 6 guys and a lot of them were into video games. They would literally just play video games all night long,
Yeah.
And then there was like 2 participants that didn't care for video games at all.
Yeah.
You would not see a video game. One of our learner actually was obsessed with Monopoly. He probably had like 30 different versions of Monopoly. And he was the type to play literally by the rules. So he was always the one to read the directions and tell you where to
so
go.
he wasn't letting you steal from the bank.
Oh. So, to each his own,
Yeah.
right? Everyone's preferences, just because your preference differs than mine doesn't mean that mine is invalid or yours is.
Yeah.
And that's important to kind of like let people know, like, just because it doesn't make sense to you doesn't mean it doesn't make sense or it's not functional for our learners
Right.
or friends.
Right. And there's so many different reasons, right? We kind of touched on this. There's so many different reasons for leisure skills. Like,
Yeah.
it's to entertain yourself. It could be for self growth or because like you want to learn something or do something new that's maybe not tied to your job. It could be for social skills. And it also could be leisure skills are for self regulation as well.
Yeah. Also, too, like, think about caregivers and, like you have mentioned earlier, like, I gotta do the dishes.
Yeah.
I want to have peace of mind that I can, my child could be occupied by themselves, so at least I could keep up with the home environment and have my mental state have some type of peace of mind, right?
Yeah.
It's important for our learners to be able to, have leader skills, especially when it can open up the door for so much more,
Yeah. So when do you teach? So like if we're saying like, okay, if a kid has stims, a kid has, has their own special restricted interests. What do you do when you're working with a client? How do you focus on leisure skills? How do you promote leisure skills?
Honestly, so I work with early intervention. So a lot of my kiddos are like the 3-4 age range at this moment. And a lot of my friends, their attention with what they find attending could be like 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Right? So their leisure skills is going to be in the moment of whatever they find most fascinating and is keeping them attending to the activity the longest.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too that my therapist, right? It's like, okay, he may have like played with the blocks for 12 seconds, but let's model different ways to play with the blocks. Let's model how to build a tower. Let's model how flipping the blocks from tall to more widened, like modeling different ways that the learner showed interest in that activity, but expanding how they could play with it. And I remember one of my friends, that was exactly what I did. I was like, now watch this. And he was able to go from 12 seconds to 8 minutes playing consistently with the blocks. And it was all about modeling and like really seeing what they were interested in the moment and just going with the flow. So you go from not being able to attend more than 12 seconds to sustaining attention for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all about like soaking in the moment of, and then guess what? Tomorrow he wasn't caring about the blocks. And that's okay.
I know.
But guess what? The next week he was modeling and playing with the blocks how we played together all by himself.
Oh my gosh.
So that's another thing to remember. It's like just because, we saw it happen once doesn't mean that they lost the skill. It might come back again whenever it's more fitting for them, whenever they're motivated. But the whole point is to provide opportunities and expand the horizon of what they may see as one way of playing it. And it's not that they're playing with it wrong. They're playing it with their win, but we get to expose them to other ways to play with that.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
That's going to, now he could carry over that skill of stacking it to the stack of other blocks that we have.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? It's like aiming for behavioral cusp in such a way that's fun and engaging, that's really meaningful for that learner at that moment.
Yeah. Oh my.
So that's kind of like how I build and teach leisure skills, because it's going to look different every day.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like that really speaks to, because I've worked in places where people get stuck, where they're like, we're teaching you how to play with blocks. So every day we're going to play with blocks. And then you're like, man, this kid like will not play with blocks for more than a minute at a time. And it's like, well, maybe they don't want to play with blocks. Like my kids will go through, and I feel like this is where I think leisure skills is an area where being a mom has really informed my treatment, because I see what my kids play with and I see how my kids play versus how maybe I used to teach leisure skills before I had kids, where I would be like, okay, now we're gonna break out the blocks and we're gonna build, and we're building, let's build. And it's like very robotic, and we're doing the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, I have to keep exposing you to the blocks until you like the blocks. but actually like maybe it would be better to have 5 options of leisure skills and we're working on all 5 of them and you get to choose every day. And so that way I know like, oh, you really actually wanted to play with the blocks. So you're more likely to pay attention to what I'm doing and to be interested in my models and to actually learn during this session as opposed to me just being like, now it's time for blocks again.
Yeah. Also, too, carrying over what you said about being a mom,
Yeah.
right? One of the things that I do with my daughter is like making chores fun and engaging. Like,
Yeah.
come on, help mommy fold
You're
the
so good
blocks.
at that.
And now she loves to fold her clothes. Is it perfect? No, but she's 3. But the fact that she's finding enjoyment, reinforcement of helping me do home chores, and then
Yeah.
she's like, "No, I clean it. I want to sweep." Now she's motivated to do all these home chores and help me get the house done. Meanwhile, it's also teaching her ADL skills,
Yeah.
right? Let's make something that's going to be beneficial for our home environment, reinforcing, but also a skill.
Yeah.
And now she's enjoyment and putting her toys away and cleaning up and folding her clothes and helping me pair socks.
Yeah, because like also at some point, like also these things. So like I have a kid that she works on watering the plants because at some point like that could become taking care of the plants, clipping them, knowing which kind of plants require the coffee beans or the egg shells or the what I know nothing about plants. You know, all that stuff. It becomes into like almost a gardening leisure skill. So like you got to start somewhere with that. You might not start in a garden, but like let's just start and see if you enjoy watering the plants and you can do that and maybe you're interested in that and it doesn't have to be this big we're sitting down and we're playing with a toy. It's just like we're doing something or like we'll sit down sometimes at the piano and just like play around with the piano.
Yeah.
And we enjoy that and then maybe at some point that can be shaped into actually learning how to play the piano.
Yeah.
Which is like instruments, that's a leisure skill.
Yeah, and that's why it's especially with like early intervention,
Yeah.
right? It's like definitely like, especially when our friends are like, well, they don't have a reinforcer. He doesn't, there's not one thing that he likes,
Yeah.
right? Those are like my favorite. Those are my favorite friends. Because it's like, oh,
You're like,
I
I'm
bet you
gonna
we go
find something.
like, yeah.
You and I
It's like,
operate in the same wavelength of like, oh yeah, we're gonna prove you wrong.
it's like, okay, let's reframe how you're seeing it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, look at he went from there to there to there to there to there. So now let's make it more fun and enjoyable for him to start engaging longer. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Look, it's like, wow, he sat for 12 minutes.
Yeah.
12 seconds,
Yeah.
So it's all about really helping our staff and families and caregivers really see outside the box and really kind of see from our learners' perspective of what they find enjoyable and how can we incorporate ourselves to help expand maybe how they manipulate things, but also open the doors for other avenues where they can generalize that skill into something.
Yeah. I think it's also like being a mom has really changed what I select to work on with kids. So I feel like before I was a mom, there was a lot, even as kids were like 7, 8, 9, 10, I would be picking toys. And I'd be like, all right, we're going to play with this play set. We're going to play with this thing. And I see like, we're going to learn how to play with trains and stuff. Like if it's going to take me 4 years to teach you how to play with trains at 8, by the time you're 12, if you weren't if trains are your special interest, that's one thing. But if you weren't interested in trains and I'm teaching you to play with trains to either have shared interests with other kids or to be able to entertain yourself for longer and safer, by the time you're 12, that's no longer an age appropriate interest. So I've now spent 4 years teaching you something that you're meant to then outgrow versus like, again, if Elmo is your special interest, you can like Elmo your whole life. If Disney is your special interest, like Disney your whole life. But if it's not already their special interest, we want to be thinking forward to things that they can grow into that are going to create social opportunities and that they can grow with as they get older because kids you lose that like play. Like I see it. Like Nolan still does imaginative play. He's actually I will say Nolan is better at imaginative play than Jack. Jack's like not a concrete thinker. He does like imaginative play, but Nolan and my nephew can go into this whole world. Like they create worlds in their heads. They've got worlds. And at some point, they're going to outgrow it. That's not going to last forever. And so it's like thinking about what are we going to pick that are skills that are going to stick with. If a child doesn't have an imaginative play, at 9 years old, we're not starting to teach that necessarily. Or like teach them how to like put on princess dresses and stuff. Because like a 13-year-old girl is starting to put on makeup and paint their nails. Like I like to teach girls how to like paint their nails and stuff if they're interested in it.
Do their hair.
Yeah.
Snow's doing her hair right now. She's
Yeah.
like, I got to do my.
Yeah. If they're interested in it. Or boys. You know what? Honestly, like my boys like having their nails painted too. So like whatever, but like I try to pick things that they can grow into that are going to be things like my mother still paints her nails. I feel like that's a lifelong way to do something for yourself.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up too, especially with our older learners, a lot of people could doubt what they're capable of
Yeah.
and like kind of like give them like a baby toy.
Yes.
Right. And it's like, have you even tried to see what they're interested in?
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of like, not limit what your learners could be really interested in, but just it's all about exposure. Even like something so simple, like how a lot of people will be like, oh, but they don't need to play with something functional for it to count. It's like, yeah, absolutely, but also too, wouldn't you want our learners to learn a new game that they can incorporate at school, like playing tag?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe they don't want to play, but at least have them learn how the game works so that if they are invited or maybe they find it fun, especially with our lopers that love to run, now they have a game that they can play with their friends.
Yeah.
Right. So there's always going to be kind of pushback of like, you shouldn't be doing this or leave them alone. It's like, well, aren't they entitled to have a choice to decide if they want to be engaged with their peers by playing a game? Maybe one day they say, yeah, I want to play. Maybe one day they're initiating it. And then maybe one day they say no, but at least they know what the game or activity or skill set that is needed for them to have autonomy to decide yes or no.
They have like the full information. I get what you're saying is that like instead of saying refusing to do it because they don't understand it or they don't know what it is or they're missing the skill set to be able to play it, they now have the ability, like they can make an informed decision of like, I'm opting out of tag. I don't like tag, as opposed to like, I'm not participating in that. I'm watching all these other kids over here playing and I'm not part of that. And like some kids might not care and other kids might not be able to tell us that they do care. And I love that. I love the idea. And I think that's like the social leisure skills is like, like giving kids, yes, when you're on your own time, do what you want. You want to like get out all your Monopoly boards and line them all up, whatever. That's great. But also equipping kids with skills that they can then share with others can help teach a lot of those social skills, especially if you can find things like, that kid with Monopoly, maybe he can find other kids who like to play board games. Or maybe you try to expand it as like, okay, Monopoly, but now let's go to like Dungeons and Dragons and some of those games that have more group oriented. Like I feel like Dungeons and Dragon groups exist already. So like,
and that's why I love a social skills group.
Yeah.
And there's so many people that are against it. And I think it's so sad. It's like, especially since I think we touched on this the last time.
Yeah.
We're talking about the control, right? This one's flexibility. This one's working on impulse control. This one's working. That's why it's so important to have these groups where everyone is kind of working together, because there are going to be times where you have to wait your turn in life, right? Yeah, this is a simple game. Oh, why does he got to wait? Well, waiting is crucial, especially when it comes to safety too. So, and also having control, right? You got to wait your turn for a lot of things in life. Even it's waiting your turn for the water fountain, right? Waiting your turn to go to the bathroom because it's full.
To pay, to check out at places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So like waiting, turn taking, attending, these are all important skills for all of our learners to be able to have to navigate their environments. But also too, like social skills is such a great opportunity for them to build their own community, right? I felt so sad too because one of our friends, he's having a little difficulty at school, and they were sharing like, oh, he's getting bullied and he literally has no friends. And he comes to our social skills group and he thrives. He does so well with our friends at social skills group. And to hear that he doesn't have friends at school and he's getting bullied, that broke my heart. You know what I mean? Because like he has skill set.
I know.
And it's just kind of so sad to hear that, but it's reality, and it's not just him going through that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah. And I think it's like, I see this as a sports mom that, because eventually sports become a leisure skill as well. Where like at some point you're not playing on a competitive team. You're playing on like beer league softball as like a 40-year-old man. Like, I feel like it's but what I see is like when you're interested in the activity, there's space to learn all of these collateral skills and all these other things. And it brings out the best version of you because you're motivated, because you're like, well, I really want to play basketball, or I really want to do Dungeons and Dragons, or I really want to do this thing. So like, I am going to hold myself together. Oh, wait, I actually can hold myself together here. I can hold myself together in other places too. And it like empowerment and autonomy when you find those social spaces that are shared leisure interests.
Yeah, community.
Yeah. And I will say I'm going to give a free plug to this guy that I met who's a BCBA, Greg Reisman. He has this whole thing. I just pulled it up. We'll put it in the show notes, called Neuro D&D, and he offers social skills groups, virtual and in person, Dungeons and Dragons games, and everything is behavior analytic, and you have your own individualized goals, and they create, I know very little about Dungeons and Dragons, but they create your own characters based on what your strengths and areas for growth are, so that your place in the game is like customized to what your needs are, and the way that the game unfolds is meant to be teaching you the skills that you need to be learning. And he happens to live really close. He happens to be in New Jersey. We like cross paths on social media, but it's really cool. I was like, we need to be doing things like this for all special interests. Like, there's got to be like, you know, the Monopoly group, the basketball group, the like, we got to be doing this for kids because I think it's
needed.
It's needed. And this is how you learn. You use those leisure spaces to teach social skills, self-regulation skills, you know, conversation skills, verbal behavior. What?
Relationships.
Yeah. And like, and I think like what we talked about was it motivation last week. You know, everyone can check out that episode. We talked about the primary reinforcers, and connection is a primary reinforcer.
Yeah, Ruby said, that's so cool. Monopoly group. We were just talking about Monopoly, Ruby.
Yeah.
I had to consult at a middle school, and they had a special group for Lego building.
That's a big one.
Yeah, Legos, Monopoly, Dungeons and Dragons. You know, I mean, the lists are really endless, but a lot of our learners are especially like interested in a lot of similar activities. So it's like, hey, you like that? I like that.
Yeah.
Let's do it together.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And also too, think about it. Think about the caregivers. It's like, okay, our kids are having this group. Now the caregivers should also engage in some type of show, like while they're having their thing, like why can't we connect and have our own little community and support?
Yeah.
That no one really talks about. That should be another topic.
The caregiver piece. And I think I work with a lot of kids who are preschool, early elementary, because I think after EI, like you don't have as many like play dates and stuff maybe. But I think preschool, early elementary kids are having play dates, and a lot of the families I work with, the parents are like, my kid doesn't get invited anywhere, or like we go and it's so embarrassing and they don't know how to play with the other kids. And I'm like, you got to find your people.
Yeah, I remember I was a one-to-one for a while, and I remember the mom, she would ask me like, oh, you know, were there any birthday cards given out that she didn't get invited to? You know, like some families only select some like kids like 5. And I get it from both ends, but you know, she always would go to all the birthday parties that she was invited to.
Yeah.
Which was so, but yeah, that's a whole other topic.
That is a whole other topic, is like promoting socialization for neurodivergent kids and like navigating that whole space. Because it's really tricky. And I see it a little bit with my kids where they're not, and I think it's true, but you want to know what? It's not my kids. I see it for me too. It's like, I don't socialize a ton, but I also don't want to spend time with people I don't want to spend time with. Like, I'm not just like going over and getting coffee with whoever I want to get coffee with. Like, I'm really selective about the people I spend time with. And so I think that that's okay. Is like, and I feel uncomfortable. Like if I agree to go do something with somebody that I don't have a connection with, sometimes it goes badly.
Yeah. Or you just want to escape.
Yeah.
Quick.
Yeah.
You know what's also cool too with what I see a lot going on is more neurodiversity friendly events.
Yeah.
So like the movie space, or like there's trampoline parks a lot, and they'll have like a sensory friendly day
Yes.
for a couple of hours, which I think is great, and families should absolutely go to, because now you can kind of form, like, you go there by yourself, but you might connect with another family that you really resonate with,
Mhm.
or you might see your child actually interact with their child, like, oh my gosh, like, we have to do this again,
Yeah.
Don't limit yourself to thinking like there is no community out there for you. There absolutely is. So kind of check your local resources,
Yeah.
or even your local nonprofits. They hold a lot of events. I
Yeah.
know there's a couple in Connecticut, like Sun, Moon, and Stars, I believe. She does a lot. I think her name, I forgot her name. I think it's Christine too. She does a lot of events for families around here.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point. That's like almost like community leisure skills. So we have like our independent leisure skills, our like social leisure skills of like, I go play baseball with somebody else or whatever. And then you also have like shared experiences like movies or concerts or
Yes.
this town fair or whatever. And it is really nice at all of these spaces. We have a sensory friendly truck in our town that goes to all the town events so that like if kids need a sensory break, they can go in there. And
That's cool.
yeah, it's like a sensory activation vehicle or something like that, I think is what it's called. And it's like a trailer that gets dragged around everywhere. It's pretty cool.
That is so cool. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I'll include information about that in the show notes as well. I feel like it makes these things more accessible and then increases the chances that you might find other people that have your shared interests or shared experiences. And I think that those are important things too. And I often find ABA programs, and especially this insurance model, doesn't leave space for learning how to experience these community leisure things. So if you have a kid who like shows, I feel like there's a lot of Broadway shows that do autism friendly shows, which
Yeah.
is great. But if you have a kid who likes shows, but maybe can't sit still through them or can't, they need to stim to self regulate, you can't take them. You can only take them when there's the autism friendly showing. But
Mm-hmm.
we could also teach them to do something, maybe to chew gum or to play with like a fidget or to do something else or to say like, I need to go outside or something like that so that they're able to go to other Broadway shows that are not the autism friendly ones so that they can access that leisure skill more frequently. We
Mm-hmm.
can teach them those skills and like that are as an ABA team, that's really functional and meaningful and enriches their life. And I think what's hard is like the insurance model doesn't leave space for things like that.
Yeah, you got to just frame it in a way that's like, oh,
Yeah.
that has to be back to like behavior or something.
Yeah, it has to go back to behavior or like reducing the symptoms of autism, which is like a whole other it could be a whole other episode. I would love to have as like a sidebar. I would love to have somebody who's
Somebody
from insurance and who's an expert on the insurance model to talk to and like pick their brain because that's the kind of stuff
you reach out to us.
yeah.
We need an insurance plug. I got billers and insurance credentialing people, but I don't got someone that's actually in.
Yeah.
So
And like who
there's
understands
somebody on TikTok. I forgot her app, but she was sharing about like, oh, you don't have to always pair insurance IEP the goals to address the autism deficits, and she had something, but obviously that's one of the big that, especially on the Facebook groups, right? It's like, oh, how can I get like, especially like ADL skills,
mm-hmm.
like they're getting denied by insurance. So it's like, how can I get something that's so meaningful and functional for our learners to learn, get approved? So everyone's like, oh, you got to will tolerate non-preferred activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
To work on that, to generalize that.
Yeah, I know. I would love to learn more about that. And I think like tying it to think about like leisure skills I find to be one of the hardest things to deal with insurance because they're like, well, they can't not entertain themselves because they have autism. Like they don't look at insurance doesn't look at like giving a kid leisure skills as related to reducing because they look at it through this like model of like how are you reducing their symptoms of autism.
Yeah. So to reduce social emotional reciprocity.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, so it has to be like, oh, to increase, yeah, exactly, to like increase social engagement, this child will learn like the rules to two new games or something. Like I feel like it has to all fit into like social skills, but then like you don't have to teach them how to play independently because that doesn't reduce the impacts of their social communication deficit.
And I think that's also another reason why we probably get so much hate, because we like, why are you, we're not trying to cure autism. It's like, you know how there's APA format for college insurance format for insurance.
Right.
But like, it's like we have insurance controls so much.
Yeah.
And it's like we are providers that are able to get so much support for our learners, right? Up to 40 hours of support. And we have a lot of time considered intensive therapy because it's longer duration. We
Yeah.
have more time to practice these skills, especially naturalistically as they come up, instead of a 30-minute time on Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like, how much work can you really get done in 30 minutes? Who's carrying over?
Right.
Like, we have to plan for generalization. We have to plan for natural environment, like manipulate the environment naturalistically for them to be exposed to contingencies and opportunities to practice this skill.
Yes.
Right. And a lot of our learners need constant repetition, but also think about it. How even something as so simple as zippering.
Right.
Right. Okay, they got to zipper their coat, zipper their lunchbox, zipper their backpack. Think about how many things a learner has to unzip in order to be independent and navigate their environment.
Right.
Okay. So we get a lot of backlashes like, oh, you're trying to make them normal and fix their, you can't fix all. It's like, no, we want to help our learners navigate their environment to their full potential.
Yeah. And empower like them to be the best version of themselves. And like, if that means that you have monopoly boards everywhere, great. Let's learn how to talk about them. Let's learn how to like ask questions about them. Yeah. Let's
learn
about other games. Like, let's like gently push it out. I'm not saying you can't play with Monopoly. I'm not saying like you can't have your special interests. It's just like, let's keep expanding this. And I think, and it doesn't even have to, I agree with you. Cause I think like once it clicked to me that the whole insurance model was to reduce the symptoms of autism, I was like pretty disgusted. And then I was like, oh, okay. So like, that's the framework I have to operate in to give the kids the support that that they need. And that's not my goal, but I have to match my goals to also the funding requirements.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's really hard with leisure, especially independent leisure skills.
We should do an episode of goals that got rejected and how we got them approved.
Oh my God, that's such a good idea. Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is mine and Christina's leisure skills, coming up with more episodes. I think the podcast is our leisure skill.
It is definitely one of them.
Yeah. Like it's work,
we could
talk not really
all day.
Yeah.
Right? It's cool to kind of like pick each other's brains, share our previous experience, share what others have shared with us, to just educate others and just yap behavior.
Yeah. I will say like another thing I think about leisure that changed my perspective about it was I had a kid who was like 16 or 17, and somebody said to me, like, when he goes to like a day hab program, 75% of it is just going to be him sitting around. So he needs to know how to entertain himself. You know, like they don't do that much in these like day hab spaces, and there's not enough staff. There's not enough, like there aren't people engaging with them. And so he needs to know how to entertain himself in a way that's like.
So they made a goal for like, we'll do puzzles and like the books with following the words.
Yeah, which like, I don't know how I feel about that either. I like, yes, and if that's what you're interested in, but I also think like, I don't know, like I try to teach kids like to use things again, like that's where I feel like video games are really functional. Like, let's teach kids how to play video games because that's what their peers are doing, and it's probably more reinforcing than like a puzzle.
I think it also comes down to the environment too.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned the day program.
Yeah.
Right? My sister works in group homes, and like I worked at a group home before too, and it's like, well, I never worked in a day program though. But, you know, when you think, I remember as a life skills coach too, I remember I would bring one of my learners and she would volunteer at a residential facility. And, you know, they'll play bingo, you know, for the residents, or they have like the puzzles and the books, the crossword books. But it's like, okay, not everyone is going to be motivated for a crossword book. Not everyone wants to play bingo on a Tuesday. Right. So like, we have to remember, in order for, it's like, what's in our environment for them to be able to access leisure skills. Yes. Right. But also exposing them to different things that they might find interesting. So switching up bingo, maybe we're going to learn how to knit a little activity, or maybe we're going to do something with fine motor, or like, you know, it's just like all about the environment is going to dictate how you behave. Yeah. So whatever you have access to is going to dictate whether you find leisure in it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that is really important. But I also think if kids can develop we can focus on teaching kids, like if you're interested in music, we're going to develop leisure skills around music, whether it's like using an app to like make music or playing instruments or listening to, knowing how to use Spotify to find the music that you like or create your own playlist. Like all of those pieces is like the start to end, like the soup to nuts of leisure skills. Is like, it's not enough once you get to like a day hab space. It's not enough that a kid just like can listen to music. They need to know how to turn it on, and they need to know how to find it, and they need all these other skills so that when there's nobody else there to help them, they're able to, if mom can give them an iPod, or I guess like an MP3 player, I don't know what you would call it these days. Mom can give them something that has music. They know how to like connect the headphones, and they're able to do all those things. Or they have their own instruments that they can play or tinker around with, or maybe they learn how to fix guitars. Like, I just think it's like the more you can equip your learner ahead of time when they get to that space, and you can bring those things in, it's easier for the environment to give back what you need from it.
And going back to kind of like what you mentioned too, it's like it has to be fulfilling for our learners. So you always gotta like think of them. What do they find fulfilling? Right? It's like I might not find it fulfilling, but if that's what their jam is, that's their jam.
Yeah.
Right? I remember at the group home that I worked at, I had this one individual. He was so like he could take a toaster blender and turn it into a robot that would literally clean the floor. And then 2 hours later, because we would do 2-hour checks because they're independent living. So talk, hey, what you doing? And then like 2 hours later, I come up and it's a whole different robot that's now, he made a whole trap that now goes around the whole entire thing, navigating by a drill. I'm like, how do you do all this stuff? It was crazy. But yeah, I mean, like I said, he was really interested in like creating robots and like dismembering something and putting it back. Right? That is a huge skill. I would never be able to do
No, me
anything like
neither.
that. It's fulfilling.
Yeah.
Like, cool. Make sure you don't light anything on fire.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah. And there's so many things that just made me think of, like, because my kids like robots, but they go camping with their dad a lot. And that's like a leisure skill that like, garbage for me. Hate camping. I'm an indoor air conditioned heat kind of person. But like that's a whole thing in itself too, is like learning how to read maps and learning how there's so many skills in there. And if a kid's interested in like the wilderness, like let's learn how to bird watch. Let's learn how to match.
How to make
yeah. I feel like there's so many things that you can do with that kind of stuff. And like it's figuring out what your learners or your kids, if it's your children, are interested in, and then creating all of these like offshoots of it that then empower them to own their interests and then also be able to do it themselves. Is like, now I've taught you how to search for tents online, and you can go and do that by yourself.
Like, I want this tent, I want this tent, I want this tent.
Yeah, but you can go and do that by yourself while I'm doing the dishes. And now you're safely entertaining yourself, and my mental load is not about to explode because I have to entertain you. Yeah, I don't know. I just think leisure skills is one of the like most transformative things for individuals and for their families.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this, we want you guys to let us know what are some of your favorite leisure skills.
Yeah.
And share about your learners' leisure skills.
Yes.
That it's going to look different for everybody. And so what's leisure for me, it may not be leisure for you. And that's okay.
Yes. Yes. I think like last question is thinking about maybe second to last question, thinking about teaching leisure skills. What are some of the strategies you use when you're teaching leisure skills? We've already talked about like choice, making sure that they're motivated by the activities. What types do you use like a lot of extrinsic motivation or reinforcers, or do you really focus on using the activity as the reward?
So I feel like it's not necessarily like a tangible thing, like as a reward. It's the enjoying it together. Like that quality experience is what's rewarding at the end for me. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to have you play with this blocks and then we got to do it 5 times and then, oh, look, you get a different tangible. It's like, no, let's enjoy the quality time that we're building together of what you find fascinating, and let me find a way to come into your world. Build it together, especially with leisure skills and like that social engagement piece. Like, you have to be reinforcing. It has to be reciprocated.
Yes.
It's like, like you mentioned before, like, oh, I'm not really motivated. Like, what if I don't really care for the person? Okay, well, how can I make the quality time that we are spending together, right? Because we're spending hours with our friends, rewarding for both of us. I'm gonna come into your world. I'm gonna play how you play. I'm gonna show you how I play with what you like to play with too. You know, so I really think it's a reciprocated exchange, and just finding the quality in the moment.
Yes.
That moment might last 12 seconds, and that's, you make sure that 12 seconds was quality engagement.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like now you're on to something else and you're going to try to make that, but eventually, like you said, the 12 seconds is going to be 8 minutes and then 12 minutes. And then, yeah, it's, I love that. And then I love so it's like a shaping process. Like we're just going to
Mm-hmm.
shape the duration to be slowly longer and longer by pairing your interests and how you engage with this with my interests and how I engage with this.
Mm-hmm.
And then like let's gradually, maybe you stim on the blocks for 12 seconds and then you play with them how I would play with them for 12 seconds and then we go back to your way, and like gradually it becomes longer and longer where you're mixing them both in between. Maybe you build and then
Which color should we do next? Should we do
good.
the yellow block or the blue block?
Yeah.
And then say nothing. Oh, the yellow block. Okay, here you go. The yellow.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that you also work on with the joint attention, hand-eye
Yeah.
coordination, reading, voices, Annie. These are all different things that you're actually also targeting without you even realizing it, or maybe you do realize it and you're like, oh, this is a program, right? It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
let me incorporate all these different programs naturalistically in this moment that we are sharing
Yes.
together to shape up a longer attending, but also that joint attention and all these different other skills that come with something as so simple as, hey, we're gonna play with blocks.
Yes. Yes, I know. So there's so many different things. And then for me, I try to work on teaching my kids to then be able to play on their own. And I do this with my own children too, where like I might start where we're doing something together and I'm showing you how to use it. And then I kind of like fade out. And there's actually research from Columbia, this thing that I've done. It's like a pair test where you do like, let's say 5 seconds where you're pairing. And so you're giving a lot of verbal feedback and modeling. And then you do 5 seconds where you just like hands off and you see how the kid does on their own with the materials. And then you gradually lengthen it. So you might do 10 seconds of pairing and then 10 seconds of like, now I'm hands off.
That's what I did with my daughter when she was younger, for me to shape her being able to attend by herself.
Yeah.
Literally, especially with washing dishes. And it's like she was so like she still is like a little Velcro baby, but like it's like, okay, she played by herself and then I go make her fun.
Yeah.
And then I go do something and then I come back before she's looking for me and do the same thing. It's like an intermittent and increasing that. And then now she could entertain herself for a decent amount of time.
Yeah. I feel like I do the same thing with my kids too. And I think like, there's always, you see like on Instagram and stuff, and I think this is more towards parents, of things like, oh, don't be afraid for your kids to feel bored. But I think neurodivergent kids struggle with being bored and they don't know how to solve it necessarily. And I feel like you have to teach them how to solve that experience of being bored. And so like, you can't just be like, oh, you're going to be bored and they're going to figure it out. They then become dysregulated. It feels uncomfortable. Then it leads to anger. Then it leads to a spiral. Then it leads to bad behavior. Like, it doesn't, sometimes letting a neurodivergent child sit with boredom doesn't end well. And so I feel like you have to like let them be bored and then be like, okay, like you're bored. Let's go look in the toy cabinet. Let's go pick something. Now we're going to build with our magnet tiles. Okay, no, like we solved it. This is what you do when you're feeling bored. We go find something we might want to play with, or we pick something. We just start by picking something. I feel like you have to like that. I think that that's like a big piece too of like leisure skills. Like, and I think that's why parents often default to screens, because their kid can't handle that experience of feeling bored.
Or waiting.
Yeah.
That also waiting, right? Like, can a learner wait for up to a minute, up to 3 minutes, up to 5 minutes? It's like, okay, well, what are we going to do since we know we have to practice waiting for a decent amount of time before you could access this or go here or the next transition, right? So waiting and leisure skills absolutely go hand in hand.
Yeah. I'll sometimes with my own children, I'll say like, go find something to do for 5 minutes and then you can go on screens. And oftentimes what ends up happening is, because they're just like, oh, I don't know, and I don't know what to do. And they feel really overwhelmed with the like, just go play by yourself. It's like too open-ended. So I'm just like, it's just 5 minutes. Then you can have screens, or then you can go do what you want. Oftentimes they end up picking something and then they get into it.
And they forget
and then they forget about me or the screens or whatever they were going to do in the beginning anyway. And it ends up it ends up working out, but it like helps make their brain feel less overwhelmed by this like big unknown expectation where they're like, are you going to make me do this forever? How long am I going to be expected to entertain myself?
And it also goes with personal space and boundaries. That made me think of last night. So I literally was washing the dishes and I'm all hot and I'm like, okay, let me go lay down so I could not get hot, right? And then she's like, oh, come play. And I was like, okay, mommy. I was like, okay, so you got to give mommy a minute and then I'll meet you in the room. But she's like, why don't you come play? I was like, I know, I'm going to come play, but mommy needs some space right now.
Yeah.
So, go in your room and then I'll meet you in your room, okay? And she's like, okay, you know? And then it was like, okay, cool. Like I have a piece of break because, girl, I'm overwhelmed.
I know.
I'm wet. I'm sweaty. The back of my neck is wet. I'm like hot because I had a robot. It's like, okay. You know, and it's like, give me a minute, girl, and I'll go meet you in your room.
Yeah. And like for her to be able to do that is amazing. And I think that's like a lot of the families I work with wish that their kids could go. They're like, my kid doesn't stop talking, or my kid doesn't know how to entertain themselves, or they don't know how to do, and like to even just give them like 5 minutes of breathing space, I feel like is transformative.
If it's just a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we need some time so we're not crashing out
Yeah.
here and there, right? Like always also think about how there's always more than one person involved.
Yes.
There's a listener and there's a speaker.
Yeah.
There's a caregiver and there's a child.
Yes.
There's a RBT and a staff or a BCBA.
Yes.
Right? There's that social mediated part.
Yes.
To always consider.
Yes.
I forgot what I was saying, but
yeah. That it's all like this is all for everybody. I feel like it's like we want to teach kids how to be able to entertain themselves. It's also good for them to be able to not be so reliant on other people and be able to stimulate their own energy on their own and like be able to think of things and like not constantly need somebody else to be giving that input. I feel like independent leisure skills are so valuable for everybody in the picture.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think with that, that's probably like a good end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any last takeaways for you?
I think really toning in on the fact that leisure is going to look different for everybody. Mm-hmm. And the part of it being useful for the person that is engaging in a leisure skill.
Yes.
Meaningful for that person. Not meaningful for you, even though it might be meaningful for you because like, oof, I could have a break because I know he's going to engage in meaningful stuff that means stuff for him. He could occupy himself, right? But it's like, just because someone might find leisure in something else does not mean that is wrong.
Right. I love that. That's such a great takeaway.
That's my takeaway.
Yes. Yes. I love it.
What about you?
I think just that like leisure skills to me are like a behavioral cusp. And that I feel like there's so many other space, like whether that's being able to entertain yourself or then like the social piece. And that when you find something that somebody's interested in, you can build so many other skills off of that interest. And we want to be figuring those out. I feel like as behavior analysts, we're like little detectives trying to figure this out. And I have a book downstairs. I don't remember the exact name of it, but I'll post it. And it's like 101 different ideas for leisure skills for, I think, adolescents with autism or something. And it has like all, bird watching. It has like all these things that I was like, I never really thought about. I don't like those things, so I don't think about those things. Mm-hmm. And I think it like, even just things like that, like let's get outside the box of like, we have to teach kids how to play. Yes, when they're younger, but as they get older, let's think about activities that they can do that they can age into and that they can grow with. Mm-hmm. So
love that.
Yeah, I love it. All right. You want to send us out?
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for listening in. Don't forget to like, subscribe, let us know your feedback, and we'll see you on the next episode of Reinforcing Conversation.
Bye.
That's so much fun.